ghosts, the afterlife. Halloween has just happened across the USA a couple of weeks ago. What are ghosts really? Are they scary? Is it something to be afraid of? This is what we've been led to believe. Or is it something beautiful that we all are when we reemerge from this reality? Today on Elevate, we're going to discuss that and more. Stay tuned. Welcome to Elevate, the awareness shift, waking the quantum self. I'm KAren Swain, your host, and you're listening on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio all over the world. Hello, welcome to another show, Elevating Consciousness, the Awareness Shift, Waking the Quantum Self, and the gorgeous Kristin Mismatch. I was going to say your last name first. I was going to say Mismatch Kristin.
That works. That works.
I don't know why, but Kristin's with me. Welcome. Hi again, Diane. Great to be with you. Yeah, we've already started talking about ghosts today. Kristin came on, about 10 minutes before, and we're yakking away. And our regular Shirley, I don't think she can join us. She's not feeling well, but she's popped a couple of comments in already. She's like, oh, ghosts. I love a good ghost story, which is interesting, isn't it? Like, what are ghosts really? What are ghosts to you, Kristin? When you think of the word ghost, what do you think of?
Well, immediately it goes to like my childhood and the ghost and the image of the sheet and the hollow eyes with nothing in them and the ooh type mouth and like cartoony ghost kind of in a way comes up. And then when I think of my childhood too, like things to be afraid of. But as I moved into more spiritual realms and such, I don't think of it that way. But I was raised in that religion that there are negative entities that followed Satan and that they are his minions and they tempt us all the time. And so are those ghosts too? But then my religion also taught me that my ancestors from the other side are around me all the time. So
right, yeah,
kind of mixed, right?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, I didn't have any religion growing up. I did go to a Catholic school for 1 year, so I was taught by nuns. We weren't talking about ghosts, I've got to say, for that year.
Yeah.
But still, that sort of secular understanding of ghosts are scary, something to be scared of, ghost stories, Halloween, like the whole fear factor has been exponentially perpetuated.
It totally has.
Throughout religion and society, that ghosts are something evil, that are the work of the devil, something to be scared of. You can be hurt or harmed by ghosts in some way. Ghosts under the bed. Yeah, the whole fear factor has really been ramped up. So I wanted to do the show today about ghosts. I was telling Kristin, I often think, what are we going to talk about on the show? And usually something's happening in my life that will give me a topic. So what's been happening is I've been watching this TV series called Surreal Estate, which is about a real estate company that sells the houses that are haunted. So they go in and they de-haunt the house. I mean, it's a classic sort of like demon negative thing, but it has some things like the guy that owns the real estate speaks to dead people. So his father had died, and so he sees the other side. So he's a medium, and even though the show's about demons and evil and all that sort of thing perpetuating, he's still speaking to dead people. And in one of the episodes, he goes and plays mini golf, and his dead father joins him, or bowls. He goes to a bowling alley, and he has these conversations with his dead father. And he was talking about the houses and the things that haunt the houses. And he used the word, I don't know what these things are. And the father said, oh, thanks very much. And I'm like, yeah, right?
Right?
Yeah, right. Like, you're talking to one of these things, like you're talking to your dead father, who is what you're calling a thing. And yeah, this is where the whole confusion comes into play. I remember
Right.
I was at my sister-in-law's, my brother's and my sister-in-law's the other day, and she's pretty skeptical about all this stuff that I believe in. But I don't let that stop me. I talk about this stuff like openly with her, like I would with you, right, Kristin, whether she believes me or not. We were talking about past lives, and I was telling her that she was Japanese in a past life, and she really related. She said, yeah, I was, wasn't I? So she's come a long way. But years ago, she said to me, I don't believe in life after death. And I said, really? She said, no, nothing happens when you die. And then a conversation not long after that, I was telling her that the cat was spooked in my house. I think there was a ghost. I think there was the remnants of an old lady that used to live in their house many years ago that was there that the cat perceived because the cat was doing strange things. And I'm like, what are you doing? And then I tuned into this old lady, not scary at all, just either a remnant, like a memory thought form, which a lot of ghosts can be perceived as memory thought forms.
Right.
Like everywhere that you've ever lived, that memory of you still exists. Like even you being in the physical body, that memory of you exists in houses that you've lived in.
So
Like
are you saying I'm haunting places I didn't even know I was haunting? I love that.
But you're there. And if you perceive subtle energy, you can perceive that energy that used to live there.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so I used the word ghost, and my sister-in-law, who didn't believe in life after death, said, oh, I totally believe in ghosts. And I said, no, you don't. And she said, yeah, I do. What do you mean, no, you don't? I said, you told me recently that you don't believe in life after death. And she says, yeah, that's right. And I'm like, well, what do you think ghosts are? They're dead people.
Yeah.
She didn't put that together. Like, that's the way we've been hypnotized by the narrative that ghosts are something outside of us when we're not in our physical body. Hey, Heidi.
Hi, Heidi. I think Shirley is on as well. So, yeah.
Is she on? Oh, she got up.
Yeah.
Hello. A couple of blue ghosts.
You know, you reminded me of a story. There's this town in Arizona, this small town near the border of Mexico and Arizona called Bisbee. And it's an old copper mining town that the copper mine ran out in the 50s, and sometime in the 60s or 70s, you know, the hippie artists took it over and have just lived in this town. And it's really cool, artsy, and it has all these super old hotels, and they're all haunted or spooky. And our good friend, mine and my late husband's good friend that lives there, used to take people on ghost tours. And so one time when we went to go visit her, she's like, oh, I'll take you on my old ghost tour, you know, just as fun. And I don't even know if she believes in ghosts or not. But she stopped us in front of this old bank that had become an antique store, kind of bookstore. And she was telling us about this story of how the bank burnt down, and the owner was the man who ran the bank was in the bank vault in the middle of the bank counting his money when it burned down. And he had a little boy that died in the fire, but he survived. Well, just as she was telling us this story, the woman who runs the antique store comes out the door and locks it behind her and comes and talks to us and starts talking to our friend. And she's like, oh, I was just telling him about the ghost story of the bank. And that lady goes, I don't believe in ghosts. There's no ghosts in there. And this is so funny. And we go, you don't? Oh, that's funny. And we kind of looked at each other, and then we talked for a few minutes. And then she's like, why are you closing up so early? And she goes, I don't know. That place is super spooky at night. I've seen a little boy in there. And she doesn't believe in ghosts. So like, they don't make, I don't know. Maybe people think ghosts are just, like negative things that float around too, not just dead people. I don't know. People who've died, I guess, is a better way to put it.
Well, I think that it's our ignorance. There's Alison and Diane. Hey, ladies. Hey, y'all. Hey, friends. Hi, friends.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, we're talking about ghosts today. I think it's absolute ignorance. It was completely and beautifully, and I've said this on the show many times, depicted in The Sixth Sense by M. Night Shyamalan, the director who made that movie, The Sixth Sense, which was a horror movie. I mean, I remember seeing it in the cinema, and I literally jumped out of the chair with some of the things that he, the way he depicted it. But the end of the movie, it's actually a love story, like a little boy sees dead people. I see dead people. And he sees them. He sees them, according to the movie, the way they died. So if they were in a fire, they're burnt and disfigured, or, you know, however they died. And they're not looking very good. So to him, he's being haunted. He's being scared by these dead people. But in the end, he realized that they're just dead people reaching out, and they were traumatized at the time they were died. And they are reaching out to a psychic little boy because they're trying to understand what's happened, because they've left their physical body and they haven't crossed over, as they call it. They haven't, you know, re-emerged back to pure positive energy. So they're in a lower astral plane, and they're just reaching out for help. So they're not really scaring him. And at the end of the movie, he's sitting there talking to somebody who turns her head, and half her head has been, like, I don't know, disfigured because of the way she died, and he's sitting there happily talking to her with no fear at all, just talking to her. And I loved the ending of that movie. Sorry if I've spoiled the movie if you've never seen the movie, because it turns the horror into love and communication. And I think my job, and maybe your job too, and any of us that are in this, you know, genre that are speak to dead people, our job is to demystify and take the fear out of the way, that we have been said that ghosts are scary, they're demons. Even in this silly, you know, TV show that I'm watching, there's all these demons, and there's lots of demons scaring people. That, you know, the whole fear has been placed into a subject, which, when you think about it, like who we are when we reemerge, like we're in the horror show here on Earth. When we reemerge, we're in the bliss. You know, we don't become scary demons when we leave our body. We have the opportunity of moving back to the light. But a lot of ghosts are depicted as that people that have left their body that haven't crossed over. I still don't love that word, but they haven't, they haven't shifted their frequency enough to move into a realm that is closer to the truth of who we are as source energy. So we're in...
I was just going to say, what's coming to me as you're talking about that is what I learned when I read all the Michael Newton books about how my entire spirit being isn't here with this body in this plane right now. Part of it is on the other side or in the light or wherever. And so that person that has passed over but hasn't fully gone, it's only part of them that's still here, actually.
Absolutely. I was chatting to the guides about this morning, actually, when thinking about this topic. Just like we are, a part of our consciousness is animating this physical form, the greater part of us is still in what we call the afterlife, or heaven is another word, or in spirit, or a soul in the spiritual realms. And we're extending a portion of our soul into the physical body to have that physically focused life experience. So this is still happening when we reemerge out of the physical density into an astral density or an astral form. Some people just pop straight back, you know, to that same frequency of source straight away. And some people linger, and some people explore different dimensions, many levels of different dimensions. You know, what happens when we die is such a vast, varied thing. It's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's really varied and vast, depending on, just like life is, right? Everyone's living their physical life depending on what the soul is wanting to experience, and how varied is life for different people. Same with the afterlife. So where am I going with this? So as we reemerge, that greater part of us is still in spirit, is still pure positive energy, is still love. And yet that it can extend an extension into an astral body that could be, you know, depicted as a ghost, I suppose, still in their confusion about who they are. Like maybe they had depression or mental illness, and they haven't really shaken that frequency off. And so they're still exploring that in an astral realm. And we've talked about attachments on the show. Were you with me when we talked about attachments? You were.
I think so. Yeah, we talked about it with Caroline, maybe. I don't know.
So people that were maybe addicted to food or drugs or alcohol, and they've left their physical body, and they haven't crossed over or re-emerged back to the frequency of source. So they're still engaging in the desires of the physical world, like alcohol, that feeling, like I really want to get that drunk feeling again, or that stoned feeling, or eat food, because, you know, when you're dead, you're not eating too much food. And so they latch on to people that are having that sensation so that they can draw on that sensation by latching onto their energy field, and that's called attachments. And yeah, but they're not scary at all. I think it's just complete ignorance on our part, as we as spiritual beings having a physical experience haven't got the ability to perceive subtle energy. So when I was chatting to the guides about it this morning, and they were sharing with me that just like that greater part of us is still spiritually focused, and we're living a physical life, you could be living different lives in different dimensions, but the greater part of you is still spiritually focused, even though there's an aspect of you, you know, living as a ghost or whatever. And oh God, I've lost my train of thought again. I keep losing my train of thought. Anyway. So I don't know where I'm going here. There's a few. What's happening here? I asked friends of what's Shirley saying here? I asked friend Eris to let the cat tell me when she visits. Oh, did you? For days my cat ran around like crazy, and I finally realized Eris was there. I asked her to say hi but stop chasing the cat. That is so funny.
That is really funny.
We had a friend in the inner sanctum called Eris, who transitioned how long ago? About a year or so ago?
Oh, a year plus, a year and a half or so, I believe.
She had a little bit of mental illness. She was a little bit crazed, but at the same time, she was really determined to be on her spiritual path. And a lot of the things that she learned, she really, really wanted to live, but she still had a lot of addictions, and she was still holding a lot of anger and resentment. And I think that when she had a lot of energy, she was just, you know, one of these people that just was full of energy. And when she reemerged, she tended to maintain that energetic stance, like tuning into her. There was this immense sort of fast, like crazy energy tuning into her on the other side. And and because she'd done all that spiritual work before she died, she didn't really need to spend too much time being a ghost, so to speak. Like she could reemerge. But yeah, so the way ghosts have been depicted are, you know, dead people that are scary or demonic or, you know, evil in some way, that are here to scare us or haunt us, and they have not reemerged or crossed over. And yet, you know, you speak to your dead hubby. They hate being called dead. The dead hate being called dead. You speak to your hubby who's transitioned, who's left this world, and he's not a ghost or haunting you, but yet he could do all those things that a ghost can do. Like when my auntie died. No, she wasn't my auntie. She was my dad's cousin. So she was my first cousin once removed. Anyway, it was hard to depict. She was in her 90s and she transitioned about a decade ago. We had experienced some phenomena from her dead husband, who transitioned a couple of years before, like the television turning on and it wasn't even plugged into the wall, and lights flickering and a whole lot of stuff. She said she used to look up at night and stars would get brighter in the sky. Could have been a UFO, could have been dead hubby. But we experienced some phenomena from him and we talked about it. And when she died, she did the same thing. I was in her house and one of her friends called and all the lights started flickering because we were having a conversation about something and she wanted to pipe in on the conversation. And I'm like, oh, that's hope, you know, like scaring us, but not really scaring us. My first mother-in-law, my daughter's grandmother, transitioned recently this year. She was 100 and she had dementia before she died. But after she died, she haunted me, but not in a I'm going to scare you way, but in a she was amused, like she was making paintings jump off the wall. She was flickering lights. I was sitting up in my bed one night, I think reading on my phone. I had my back to the lamp on the other side of the bed. And the lamp started doing like Morse code. If I knew Morse code, she was probably saying something. It wasn't flickering. It was going beep, 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 beep. Yep. You know, it wasn't like the bulb was, because when bulbs are dying, they often do that. So that was months ago and the bulb's still perfectly fine. But I'm sitting there reading, and I knew it was. I said, "Is that you, Bubby Ninny? Is that you, Bubby Ninny, doing that?" And she's laughing, like she's absolutely laughing,
Yeah.
because she's haunting me, but in a fun way. Like she thought it was
Right.
hilarious.
Well,
Yeah.
have you ever seen that meme? Like, hey, ghost, if you can turn on and off the lights, can't you run the vacuum too? Like, have you ever seen that?
I love that one. I haven't seen that. Can't you run the vacuum too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said an interesting word I want to touch on, and you said you've used phenomena, because it is like phenomena, and it's not negative or positive unless you perceive it one way or the other. So like when we watch those like ghost shows where they, ghost hunters and things like that, those shows, like they'll have this negative music come on and this weird static sound, and the light will flicker and it'll swing. But like if I'm in my house and the light flickers, like you said from your Bibi Nana or whatever, Aunt Bibi,
Bobby Ninny.
Bobby Ninny, whatever. You know, like if I do that, I'm like, oh hey babe, what's up? What are you doing? Hanging around. Or a certain song keeps coming on the radio, no matter what station I change it to. That happened the other morning. And I was like, okay, I get it. You're here, and it wasn't necessarily my late husband. It was his younger brother who passed long before he did.
Really?
Yeah. And so, it's interesting. It really is the perception that we give it, because a light flickering is them saying hello, their energy.
Right.
So they can manipulate energy.
Absolutely. Like I first really got this with Elisa Medhus's story when her son, it's been over a decade, I think, since he passed, transition, and he was, what do they call them, BB things? He was putting things on the ceiling. He was doing so much physical phenomena to get people to get people's attention. There was a photograph that her daughter took of her walking down the hallway, and there was this orb with a tail right behind her, and Eric's like, yep, that's me following you as an orb. Yeah, I thought, what is that? My husband used to blow light bulbs into fine powder. Really? Electricians have never seen anything. Alison also says that her husband stayed in the lower astral for 15 years. How do you know that, Alison, that he stayed in the lower astral for 15 years? Did he tell you that? Did he?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I mean, like I said before, I believe that from the research and you validating it through your guides, that we divide ourselves. Like I'm only a portion of my entire spirit being is here now. So, and I actually had to explain that to my kids, because I believe that my late husband consoles his family members or haunts them too with songs on the radio, as well as my own kids. And one of them asked me, like, how does Dad do that? And I explained to them, this is what I've read and heard, that we're not our whole thing. So he can go visit Grammy, his mom, or you, or whatever, all at the same time. So maybe that's how her husband stayed in the astral for 15 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. I'd love to hear more about that.
I was talking to Garnet once. Garnet always comes up, doesn't he? Because he covers such a vast topic. And he was interviewing a ghost, for a better word, a woman that had roamed the astral, sort of haunting a place, but not really haunting it, just being there, but people could perceive her. So therefore they were haunted because they didn't understand. I mean, what's fear? False evidence appearing real. So we're only ever scared of something when we don't understand it. Like fear is just a misunderstanding. And if we understand this stuff more readily, then we wouldn't be scared, right? Anyway, so he had this interview with the ghost, and she said that she had been there for around 200 years. And we think in linear time. And I'm like, why would you transition out of your physical body and stay in an astral world for that long? Like, why? Because it's longer than a physical life. Like, you can understand why we exit this matrix after 70, 80, 90 years, because, it's hard work being in the physical dimension. And then he said, well, you have to understand that time is really different. So 200 years in the astral is not the same as 200 years here. It's a really different. So, when we try and wrap our head around time, and again, it's not like it's a soul trapped in an astral form haunting a house. It's an extension of a soul. It's an extension of pure positive energy that's having an experience that the soul is wanting to experience. Like, I'd like to know what it's like roaming around the astral plane, second Earth for 200 years, just like I'd like to know what it's like to be human, come into a rich household with luxuries and come into a poor household living on the streets of Calcutta as a disfigured person. I saw much of that when I was in India. I was chased down the road by a man without legs on a skateboard who was begging.
Yeah.
And he took us to, there you go.
Oh, Allison, he
used to tell my medium friend that he wasn't ready to leave the material stuff and alcohol. Interesting, Allison. My friend eventually left after my friend, you had been trying to help him, finally persuaded him to move on. He also had some mental health issues. Yeah, right. Okay, interesting, Allison. Yeah, very interesting. But again,
go ahead.
Go on. It's only an aspect of him. It's not all of him. It's just an aspect of him. Yeah. And what they're telling me is that when we do reemerge, like there's more of us physically focused than can be astrally focused, which I don't really know how that works. So as we extend ourselves with a percentage of our soul energy into a life, they're saying that there's less percentage of soul energy in an astral form than in a physical form. Okay. I'm asking them why, and they're saying because you're utilizing density, like you're in a slower, denser vibratory experience, whereas the astral is a more subtle, higher, if you like, vibratory experience. So you don't need as much energy to exist in that experience. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that's really interesting. It's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah. Going back to Garnet too, one of my favorite things he said, and then one of my really gifted friends just happened to say it 2 days before I read it in his book. In one of them, he says, I think Albert explains it to him, that the other side of the veil is really more or less, it's not a higher place, a different place. It's he used the word mutable shroud that surrounds us all, almost like ocean, like us in the ocean. It's around us all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our own little piece of it, in the dense part of that mutable shroud, where they're in the more airy light. I don't know the words for it. Your mom probably has better words than you do.
A mutable shroud. Yeah, I mean the second Earth, astral Earth, exists exactly where we are in physical Earth. It's just a slightly, it's a different vibratory rate, and so our physical senses don't perceive that vibe. Like if we look on the spectrum of sound, there's ultrasound, there's a lot of sound we don't perceive. Animals can perceive, but we don't perceive. Same with on the spectrum of light, and like all the vibratory spectrum, we have a very limited perceptual experience on the spectrum of light, sound, and all that sort of stuff. So it exists where we are, but we don't perceive it because, So they're showing me Valerium. They're showing me, that's really interesting, a movie which is a sci-fi space movie called Valerium. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, it's a crazy sci-fi ride, but I know what they're talking about. Keep going.
Yeah, so they go to this desert, which is just this big desert, but they put on helmets or they put on something where they shift vibration, and the desert turns into this massive marketplace. And so they're in the same place, but they're having that is such a great analogy. Thank you for giving me that. They're having exactly a different experience, but they're in the same physical space. They're just in a different vibration. And so, he goes in there to retrieve something in this marketplace. But when he clicks out of that vibration, he's standing in a desert. And in that vibration, he's surrounded by people and houses and shops and chaos. Yeah, in the same location, but a different vibration. Ooh, so interesting.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. I love that.
a great analogy because it's a great depiction of what I'm trying to talk about. So ghosts, or the lower astral of the earth, the second earth, exists where we are, but we can't perceive it because it's a different vibration. But they have a better chance perceiving us than we do perceiving them because they're in a higher vibration. And so they perceive us, but we don't perceive them. And then they try and get their message across by flickering lights and doing all crazy things and to get our attention. But they don't necessarily, because you can do that when you've, okay, they're talking to me about Preston. So Preston and Dolly's coming up actually on after this on UFO Undercover. I think Joe's talking to Dolly. So Preston and Dolly are conscious astral travelers. They pop out of their body and move into that astral earth. But Preston has said to me, and many people on shows, that when he pops out of his physical body and he's still in his house environment in an astral realm, and he's in his astral, he'll often see a dead person, for a better word, wandering around looking kind of lost, like, where the hell am I? And he'll say, hey buddy, can I take you where I can, take you to some of your relatives? I can take you to another place. And they usually say, yeah, I'd love that, because I don't really know where I am. So they've died in some way. They've popped out of their body, but they don't know where they are. They might not even know that they're dead. And he takes them to different dimensions where they reunite with loved ones who have passed on. But it's just so easy for him. I've asked him, and he says, I just move up. And as I move up, like up as we understand up in time and space, but when you're in the astral, there's different. Time and space is different. He says, I just propel myself, and then I'm in a different experience. And in that experience, which I shared, hey Mish, how are you? Which I shared last week about, we were talking about near-death experiences, and I had a near-death experience without having a near-death experience where I'm hanging out.
Yeah.
My first memory of that experience, it was so varied and there's so much happened, was I was in a classroom and I was asking, how do I move between dimensions? That was the question I was asking, knowing that I was in a particular vibratory experience on the other side, if you like, in an astral form, while my body was sleeping at night. And I wanted to go and visit different dimensions. And the teacher told me it had something to do with the energy vortexes, the chakras in but I don't exactly remember what she said, but whatever she told me, I did it. And I woke up. It was like I was waking up, like you would wake up from a sleep into and I was in another experience with different people. So yeah, we can move through these different experiences, different realities, if you like, different dimensions where a whole lot of different stuff is going on. I reckon that a gladia, which is the city that Garnet talks about, where a whole lot of depicted, I don't want to call them dead people, where spirits hang out, and they can don different identities that they've been when they were physical. And so the spirits can look like old sort of Victorian dress or modern dress, or like there's all these different things happening. That's also a created environment.
Right.
Yeah.
That they've created together to
a co-creative environment. To have an experience.
You're reminding me of something. So I've been exploring recently. Eben Alexander and Karen Newell have put together, they have a company called Sacred Acoustics, and they have all of these binaural beats that they have worked with to create ones for healing, meditation, and stuff like that. And I can't remember which of the books it's in. It's either Map of Heaven, which is not Proof of Heaven. It's either in Map of Heaven, but I believe it's in Living in a Mindful Universe. Eben talks about how he uses these CDs or music or sounds that they put out, these things that you can purchase from them. And he uses it to get into a meditative state. And Eben goes back to the other side and he hangs out with his father who passed, and they play chess.
Yeah.
And so maybe different than Preston, or how you were saying that you were able to lift out because of that energy body. Like that's the vehicle that Eben Alexander
is using sound. Yeah. Yeah.
because he had a very visceral experience when he was on the other side, when he was in the coma. That was very vibratory sound, all of that. So you're just making me think about that when you spoke about Preston too.
I forgot about Eben. I asked him to come on the show last year. God, this year's finished. And we talked about it and we couldn't find some dates. And then I was going to get back to him and I haven't got back to him, and a year has gone past and I haven't got back to him.
Oh, yeah. He's so great. So is Karen. I
forgot about that. Well, I'll have to reach out to him again. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk about something then that I have questions for the guides for. And that is, your mob or you. So, I delved into the spiritual realm, but when I was a kid growing up in the church, in the Mormon church, I was afraid of things like tarot cards and seances and mediums and astrology. But I've put all that behind me, although I'm still nervous about Ouija boards and communicating. And my understanding is that you don't know what you're communicating with, so you don't know what can come through. And people talk about these scary experiences. So talk about that.
Well, they're saying there's nothing innately scary about Ouija boards. It is the level of understanding of the people that are using them. So if you use, and they're saying, it's not even necessary to use a Ouija board. Again, it's an old idea based in the fear and misunderstanding that we have of who we are as spiritual beings having a physical experience and not the other way around. We think that anything outside physical is a spirit, and then a spirit is something according to Halloween or ghosts, or is something to be feared or scared. Again, a psyop to make us not understand who we are as spiritual beings and keep us rooted in physical beings. But there's nothing innately scary about Ouija boards, but the lack of education and understanding of the people that use them. So there are no inherently evil spirits on the other side that can come and haunt you or scare you or kill you, like many of the Hollywood movies, including this silly show that I've been watching, Real Estate, not that I want to plug it, depicts that. So when I watch stuff like that, I go, that's not true, that some sort of demon can hurt you or murder you, that some non-physical identity can murder you. And I was chatting to the guys about this too, and they said, well, nothing can murder you, but you can die of fright. So what murders you is your own fearful thoughts. If you're anxious and terrified, you can have a heart attack and that can murder you, but there aren't any spirits that can come with a knife and kill you with a knife as depicted in Hollywood movies. So with the Ouija board, they're saying that the intent that you use the board with, if you don't understand that you have a direct line to whoever you want to talk to in a subtle dimension, be it a relative, people, usually kids, play with it, coming from the understanding that it's going to be exciting and scary, much like we understand Halloween, right? So there's excitement wrapped up with fear. So why does someone go to a horror show or go on a roller coaster ride? Because I want that exhilaration of terror, that excitement of terror. So they're using it with that intention. And then you can have pesky spirits that are either, I'm asking what dimension they're at, and they're saying all different dimensions, even spirits that have, again, crossed over, can use your lack of understanding to scare you. Like if you don't fear is false evidence appearing real. So it's your beliefs that are scaring you, not really what's happening. So somebody can see the lights flickering and say, oh, that's mum saying hi. Or they're like, oh my God, this house is haunted. So what's really happening here but belief? Belief. And again, Ouija board is the same thing. So the intention that's being used, let's get a thrill. And then you could be terrified, based on phenomena happening because you have no understanding. Like back in the day, I've never actually seen this happen, but it's been depicted when spiritualism was really at the beginning of last century, at the beginning of the 20th century. and people were doing a lot of seances, and tables were lifting and things were flying around the room, like and ectoplasm and all that sort of stuff, like I've never seen any of that. And the guides are just saying, well, it's not necessary. And I'm saying, well, why was it necessary then? They said breaking through dogma. We had to do something to break through the dogma. So as we're breaking through the dogma that religion has created about who we are as spiritual beings, we had to do something pretty intense to really make people believe in the world of spirit. And today it's more widespread and well known that, psychics are, everyone understands mediums and psychics. And so that's not necessary to break through the dogma of fear, really.
Yeah.
Of fear. Mm-hmm.
So I'm being reminded too, and this kind of goes along deliberate creation as well. There is a woman that I follow on YouTube and Instagram, and her name is Constance Mesmer, and she has she's this teacher, and she puts everything online, like she calls it her master class, and you can just follow her videos. She was talking about, and she's been in practice for many, many years. She's talking about a couple months ago that she had a client who came in whose husband had passed over. And the husband, this woman said, my husband's haunting me. Like, he wasn't very nice, when we were married. And he's still like persisting and telling me like, oh, you'll never amount to anything. You're no good. You're ugly. Nobody's going to want you. And can you make him go away? And Constance goes in to say, that she has this tool that she uses when she's reading, because she has the gift of sight, right? Where she can actually see the beings. And she says that she saw this being and she described it, and it was this woman's husband. But she says she does this thing where she turns and looks at it from the side, and she said it's flat. And when it's flat like that, it's actually more of a projection. So this woman was creating a projection. That's exactly
what the guides were saying. Yes. I just was like, I was waiting for you to finish. They said straight away it wasn't her dead husband. It was her negative. It was her beliefs about what her husband would say to her.
Right.
And she's given it more power because now he's omnipresent as a dead person.
Yeah.
And like
where the medium, the medium could actually, the psychic medium could see him. She says when she sees the loved one from the other side, she turns, she says they have girth, like there's depth, like they're more 3D, even though they're in spirit. That's her tool, I'm saying. But like, that projection. And so, sometimes I know people in my personal life that are like, oh, I'm having these hallucinations. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so gifted. And I've tried to explain that to them, like, see if you can check and see if that's a projection or something that's not, and maybe you're seeing somebody else's projection.
Projection.
Mm-hmm. Which is deliberate creation.
Absolutely. You create your own reality. So as he was physically focused and indulging in negative thought forms and criticizing her, and she was criticizing him, that relationship exists in her mind. So even though he's passed on, she's still having that relationship in that negative space and attributing it to him as a ghost. I have this client I spoke to the other day who's been seeing a lot of different mediums, and I just shake my head at what psychic people say. So she's like, I asked the medium and she said, don't buy this house because there's going to be negative things happening and you blah, 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 blah. And I just, the guides and I just shake my head. Because, oh, yeah, my dead father said, don't do this and don't do that. Honestly, when you're speaking to true guidance, they do not have an opinion about your life. And they're never going to say, don't do this or do this. Like, never, ever, ever have my guides told me what to do. They can make suggestions. They can give me inspiration. Like one day, I went to do some clearing of a land where the ego me said, no, that's not what I do. I'm not interested in that. And then I woke up that morning and got dressed in a hurry and I'm walking down the stairs and I'm like, where am I going? They said, you're going. So, but at any time I had the, I could say, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah, you always have choice. And
I always have choice. So they weren't making me go. But anyway, it was a great experience. I met an old friend. I Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I won't go into it. And I realized why they took me there, or strongly suggested that I go. But they never tell me what to do. Right. And so if mediums are saying, your dead father is saying, don't marry this guy or don't buy this house, that's BS. I'm sorry. It is BS. So what happened? And I was saying to her that I once moved into a house, a whole lot of things happened, synchronicity, and we moved in, and the landlady, who ended up living understairs, we had this horrible experience with her. And yet it was the best experience of my life. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about in this horrible experience. So maybe a medium could have seen that I would move into this beautiful house and there would be this horrible experience, and they would say, don't, rent that house because there's terrible things that are going to happen. But who's to say that that terrible thing, like this crazy landlord, wasn't giving you what your soul was desiring? So I had desired to not get caught up in somebody else's anger. Like I always felt like when people were angry, it was all about me. Even though I was teaching people's anger as them, I once remember reading or hearing about a guru, and one of his disciples was abusing him, saying he was a charlatan. And he said, I thank you for your gift of anger, but I don't accept it. I give it back. And I remember thinking, if only I could be like that. Well, one day I had this experience of this angry landlord spewing her venom at me. And all I felt for her was compassion, because I just realized that she was so messed up that she just made everyone her enemy. And I didn't take it personally. So this long-held desire was fulfilled by this crazy landlord. So who's to say anything is good or bad? And this is what, when you're speaking to soul, when you're speaking to higher consciousness, they really understand that. They really understand that your soul is asking, that your soul has lessons that it wants to experience, and they never say don't or do. And so if you come across a medium that says, don't buy this house, don't marry that man, or, don't do this, don't do that because it's bad energy, then they're coming from their opinion.
Yeah, or their filter. And like maybe they're able to pick up on some projection that a certain landlady would be really hard to deal with, but that could be some kind of soul purpose that you two were supposed to have a tangle so you could learn a lesson. Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's very interesting. So it is.
And that happens a lot with mediums. People go, and whenever anyone comes to a reading from me, Kristin, and they want advice from me, what should I do with my life? I'm going to say, well, let's ask your higher self, or let's ask your guides. Like, don't ask me or my guides. They have no opinion on what you should do with your life. Like, really, it's about your soul. What is your soul wanting to experience? Like, should I go here? Should I go there? Should I do this? Should I do that? It's really up to your soul, because your soul is the one in charge. The ego thinks it's in charge. The ego has all these desires and wants and needs based on fear. If I don't have this, then I'm not going to feel good. And if I don't have that, then I'm not going to feel good. And that's all a story of fear. Yeah. Coming from an ego perspective that believes, that is under the illusion that it's separate to love, or separate to source, or separate to power to create its own reality. And when you understand that you have infinite power to create any reality you want, then fear really starts to subside, because nobody or anything can take anything away from you, because they can't take away the way you think.
Yeah. And that leads me to, reminds me to bring up that, one of the things I try to do, yes, I'll still sometimes go to somebody for like advice or something like that, like a medium or an astrologer or something like that, because I find it interesting. But I really should trust myself and my own, and just work on communicating with my higher self. And I have to go, am I just not trusting myself? I mean, people like cute Shirley says she reached out to the cats to let her know when Eris is there. Why do the cats have to do it? Why do we trust our dog sense of a guy coming up to the door? Oh, that guy must not be good because my dog doesn't like him. Why not trust ourselves? We have those same sixth sense, seventh sense, 10th sense. Like we do have that. And so, and I'm not poo-pooing mediumship at all, because I really respect it. And I think that there are really great people out there too. It's just, you have to, does it resonate with me what they're saying? Right. So. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
yeah.
Mish says here she was told on a radio reading back in 2000 not to buy the place we bought. And she says, looking back, maybe should have listened, lol. Old homes are a lot of work. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, but what did you learn about yourself? Like renovating an old home, it is a lot of work. As humans, we're always resisting the lessons the soul are wanting us to live. Like, we could have had a bad relationship with a partner and like, I should never have married him. But, you had children to this person, or what did you learn about yourself in that time? Well, I learned to be more independent. I learned to trust my gut. I learned this. I learned not to rely on another person. I learned to love myself. Like a lot of great lessons happen with old houses, so to speak. But renovating old houses.
And not to say that I still believe in like, getting a definite intuitive hit, whatever it is, whether it's from a guardian angel, one of my guides, or my own higher self saying, don't go down that alleyway or whatever. And maybe I could have gotten killed or something. Like, I don't disagree with the fact that happens too, So there are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, like what I said to my client the other day, our guides, even our dead relatives, mom, dad, boyfriend, whoever who is on the other side, they're not telling us what to do, but they are guiding us. Like guidance and telling someone what to do are really two different things. And so we have constant guidance, and that guidance is usually in the form of the feelings, like the feelings you feel. Like, should I eat that? I really want to eat that because I really like that. But every time I eat that, I feel sick. Like, listen to how you feel. Don't listen to what you want. Listen to how you feel.
Well, that goes back to our conversation a couple of weeks ago. Like, being out of alignment is kind of painful. And when we're in alignment, it feels great, right?
Yeah. But, getting back to ghosts and the way we perceive ghosts, I think that people who had limited sight, back in the day, who perceive ghosts, like, I love this image. So this is an image of what is depicted as a ghost, right? It's a girl, people listening on radio, that's all blurry. She's in a white dress, classic sort of long white dress, classic ghost. But she just looks like she's blurry. And if you think about it, she's vibrating at a higher speed. And so if you're perceiving it through your physical eyes, which don't pick up the higher frequencies, it would look blurry, right? Like a white ghost-like figure. And I think to myself, like, that's where we get, we put sheets over people. We get that idea that ghosts are white or blurry like this. And this is another depiction of a ghost, like a haunting sort of looking ghost. So for people listening on radio, she's wearing sort of rags, like it's like a hood, and her face is all black.
It looks like she's covered in ectoplasm.
She does look like she's covered in ectoplasm. And again, maybe back in the day when people were perceiving subtle energy, people in different dimensions, they were perceiving the ectoplasm, and this is what it's turned into.
Yeah.
And then but really, it's like we look like this, right? Like we're beings of love and light. So for people, again, listening on radio, this is a being, oh gosh, how do I describe this, Kristin? This is a being that is just wearing long, flowing white robes that
become the cosmos and just full of
cosmos and full of light and sparkling white gold light. Like, this is who we are, not this, but trying to perceive a subtle energy in a different dimension. This is what we come up with. So it's understandable how we got the idea of hauntings. It's from sheer misunderstanding and lack of education, because we don't get educated on our psychic abilities or tapping into subtle energy or telepathy in school, right? We leave it up to people telling us and movies depicting it. And but at the very beginning of this, Shirley said, oh, I love a good ghost story. And I think that Halloween, the whole Halloween thing is that we love to be scared. Like, we love to be terrified. We get our kicks from being scared.
I don't know if anybody who's online with us is from the UK. What is the whole thing about, and maybe they have it in Australia, during the holidays, like the Christmas holidays, they have their Christmas ghost stories. Have you ever heard of that? Like the woman in white is like, or the lady in white's like a really famous Christmas ghost story. A Christmas Carol. That comes
ghost
from
of
that
Christmas.
tradition.
Yeah, the ghost of Christmas past.
Ghost
Scrooge.
stories at Christmas time. What is that?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've only ever known it through that movie or book or, the Ghosts of Christmas Past. But he learnt so much from those ghosts. Those ghosts were like wise guides that took him to the past and showed him what a dickhead he'd been and took him to a future. Like, it was like having a near-death experience while he was still embodied or in his dreams. I mean, it's a beautiful story. Turning a grumpy old, selfish man into a generous, loving person. It's a beautiful story. I love that story. But the ghosts were doing it, but they were benevolent, wise spirits. That were doing that.
My late husband was a musician, and he left a recording studio to me. And I've shown in our group, our online group, before that I get orbs in there. I have cameras set up for security, but I get orbs in there all the time.
You do. They have a party in there. I tell you,
they have a party in there. But it's interesting to see people's reactions if I choose to show them those videos of those orbs, because it's undeniable that there are orbs flying around in there. And some people are like, you need to go bless that, and you need to do a clearing. And other people like you, Karen, are like, they're having a party in there.
Party in there. So getting back to what we were talking about in Valerian, where he's in the desert and then he shifts vibration and he's in this big marketplace. So the astral world and the physical world live in the same space. So in your studio, like, oh God, I've gone blank on your husband's name. Why have I gone blank?
Andrew.
Sorry.
It's your concussion, honey.
It's my concussion. I know my things just keep dropping out of my head. They really do. Anyway, so Andrew's in the studio with his friends on the other side playing music and having a party. And that is being picked up by the cameras, all these orbs. Like, it is totally a party. So again, someone could perceive that and say, oh, we need to clear the space of the energies. And someone could say, like, here's my loved ones on the other side in the same space that I am, having this fantastic time. Again, it's like, I just come back to Wayne Dyer. You can think of the world is out to get you. What did he say? I'm butchering his words.
I'm not very good at
You can
those
think
quotes.
of the universe or a friendly place or an unfriendly place. It's your choice. Like, is the universe working in your favor? Is it working against you? But it's up to you. Like, what do you believe? Is it working for you? Do you live in a friendly universe or a hostile universe? I think that's the words he used to use. I'm butchering. Sorry, Wayne. He visits me all the time. He's just such a beautiful soul.
Really? That's so beautiful.
I almost met him in the physical, but my ego stopped me. In Australia, we have this thing called tall poppy syndrome, and I was walking towards him, and he had this big smile on his face, and I was with a girlfriend, and we were walking towards him, and we were like feet away from him, and we both turned and walked in the different direction and went to a cafe and sat down and looked at each other and said, why the hell did we do that? But we didn't want to look like fans, like sort of silly little girls, raving fans, because we were at a big conference. He was one of the speakers. And I so regret that. Like, who cares if I look like, I was young at the time, who cares if I look like a raving fan and I go up and give him a hug and say, oh my God, I love you so much. Like, who cares? But my ego stopped me doing that. Like, fear stopped me doing it. And I always regretted that I had a chance to meet and, hug Wayne Dyer, and I never did. But definitely he has been in contact.
Do we have a second for me to share a story that's similar but
We've
different?
got 2 minutes left.
I'll be really quick. So Garnet Schulhauser, we talk about him all the time. And the very first time I went to a conference was because he was speaking at it, Ozark Mountain Transformation Conference in 2016, I think. And he and I talked a couple times, in downtime, but they had this dinner that I paid extra to go to, where you could have dinner with all the speakers. And I wanted to sit with him at a table and have a conversation. I don't know what it was. Who knows? But I love and adore Garnet. Well, at this dinner, he was at the other side of the room, and I never got to see him again after that. Well, that night I had a dream, but it's that dream, like when you talk about your Shirley MacLaine experience. And I went to this house, which I've been to, and I know it's like an astral realm of mine that I go to, but this was the first time, and I walked in, and Garnet was across the room, and he walked right over and was like, here, now we can hug. And we gave each other this big, huge hug.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
know that sounds like maybe I made it up or I was dreaming
No,
that, but
no.
it's
You got,
that vivid astral realm house that I go
experience.
to all the time.
Mhm.
And that's what that reminds me of. So yeah, I didn't want to be a dorky fan, but I got my hug in the astral.
You got your hug. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I had a conversation with my brother once many, many years ago when he wouldn't speak to me. He was angry. And I had it out with him in another dimension. Yeah, so we had our conversation because the physical him was being too stubborn and wouldn't, pick up the phone. But the astral him was open to the conversation. We've run out of time. We've hit the hour. Oh, my God. Shirley says, what a fun conversation. Thank you, Shirley.
Oh, you better do your station idea.
Oh, yeah, my station idea. I forgot to do it. You're listening to Elevate on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio all over the place, and Undercover UFOs coming up, and I think Dolly's on the network. But yeah, this has been fun. Ghosts are nothing to be scared of. It's a psyop making us fear our own innate nature of who we are as spiritual beings, as spirit. We are, elevated beings. Let's be that while being physically focused. Big love to all of you. Thanks, darling. It's always fun. Always goes so quickly. Big love to you. Catch you next time. Bye for now. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Luscious Ladies Online. Ciao.